The last time Jacoby Brissett played was 2 years ago, and he was quietly exceptional. Brissett was 11 out of 38 in expected points added, and 8 out of 38 in quarterback rating. His supporting cast, which combines the PFF grades of his O-line and wide receivers, was ranked 14th, so his play wasn't due to having a ton of talent around him. Brissett was statistically a top 10 quarterback in 2022. I had him as quarterback 6, but I wouldn't expect that to hold as he simply doesn't have a pattern of that play or even a pattern of starting. At backup quarterback, Drake May is awesome, as he was the third pick of the draft and second best player overall for me. He has near unlimited potential as he has a fantastic arm, enough mobility, can hit the middle of the field, and is accurate, albeit a little bit spotty at times. Since 2019, the average first round pick at quarterback has a nice 69 grade, and that translates to being the 26th best quarterback out of 45 that played 20% or more snaps in PFF's rankings. So it would make sense if May struggles a bit out the gate because usually the average rookie quarterback does, even if they're drafted highly. So I'd expect to see Brissett play for a good chunk of the year unless they really just struggle early on, in which case May might get the starting job earlier than expected just because they don't really have anything to lose. But the Patriots, they traditionally try to win as much as they can, so they might not go with a total youth movement. And like I said, Brissett has a good upside to him as well. He has had some high highs. He's definitely also had some low lows, but he is a competent player. As we shift to the offensive line, if you're enjoying this content, make sure you're subscribed, as I'll be pushing out a ton of NFL videos before the season starts and throughout the year. With that said, though, the offensive line for New England is a bit of a problem. The O-line was 32nd in pass block win rate and 10th in run block win rate, which is a really weird discrepancy. Usually teams are pretty closely clustered together in that stat because usually there's not that big of a difference in how quality of pass protection and run blocking the linemen give you. But the Patriots are definitely more strong in run blocking than they are in pass protecting. Compared to last year, they returned 4 or 5 starters, with rookie third-round pick Caden Wallace at left tackle being their difference, and Michael Onwenu moving from right guard to right tackle as well. Wallace should be fine at tackle, as third-round tackles since 2019 average a 60 PFF grade, which is fine, and much better than the 42 grade Vidarian Lowe earned last year. Their depth is fine at tackle, with Chuks Okorafor as a solid swing tackle, and Layden Robinson is likely a fine interior player, as well as fourth rounders on the interior average an okay 53 grade, which isn't great, but is again better than what they had last year for a chunk of their starters. They had injuries and they had a sort of revolving door of players throughout the year, so I think that they will be a little bit better this year, but I don't think they're going to be exceptional. I think even though 2 years ago they had a pretty good offensive line, they return a fair bit of their players from then. I just think that they do not really have the talent clicking like they did 2 years ago, and I'm going to buy in more into what we saw last year than what we saw 2 years ago, just because it's more recent. Regarding their weapons, they're a bit lacking as well, but not as bad as they were last year, which is, again, sort of a theme with New England. They are making some strides. Demario Douglas was nice, 69th in yards per game and 60th in yards per reception. So he's an all right player. He does a lot of his work out of the slot, but he is productive. Kendrick Bourne was 48th in yards per game and 71st in yards per reception, so he's an alright outside receiver as well. Jalen Polk was a second rounder, and historically, rookie second round wide receivers average a nice 69 PFF grade, which is slightly better than what Bourne earned last year, as he had a 67 grade. So they have some improvements being made. Bourne was their far and away best outside receiver last year, and Polk will now be in competition for him more than likely. So that's good to see. Hunter Henry was 22nd in yards per game among tight ends and 19th in yards per reception among tight ends. So he's not great, but he's a competent player. Antonio Gibson is fine as a running back, ranking 43rd out of 59 in PFF grade. Again, nothing exceptional, but he does have a ton of talent because he is athletically gifted. Depth-wise, Juju Smith-Schuster is an okay number 4. Ramondre Stevenson is a good running back number 2. And Austin Hooper is a solid tight end 2. So they have some pretty good depth at their weapons. So if anybody goes down, they're not going to be completely devoid of talent. They still have some productive players that can come in. As we shift to their defense, things start looking a lot better. At cornerback, the Patriots should be very well set. Jonathan Jones ranked 21st out of 127 corners in PFF grade. He's a tad undersized at 5'10", but he doesn't play that way as he's super physical. He also ran a 4.33 40, which means even at 31, he can keep up with just about anybody. He's a very good run defender too, which is a nice bonus. It's obviously not as important as how well you cover at corner, but if you're going to be tasked with the choice of being good at run defense or not, it's obviously nice to be proficient in that regard as well. Next is the make or break corner for them, Christian Gonzalez. He was graded even higher than Jones was. Jones earned a 77 PFF grade and Gonzalez earned an 81. But to be fair, Gonzalez did only play in 3.5 games, so it's a very small sample size and hard to gauge. Gonzalez does have a ton of potential, though. He is super gifted, and for a lot of the draft process was regarded as the best corner in the draft. So that is from obviously 2 years ago now, not this most recent draft. But he has a ton of potential to him, and he's been coached very well. Belichick got him off to a good start, obviously, and I think that he is due for great things if he can just maintain his level of play and improve a little bit. He's already got a great baseline, so any improvement is just going to be terrifying for other teams. Lastly, at nickel, Marcus Jones was ranked 42nd out of 118 cornerbacks 2 years ago when he last got serious reps. So he's a solid contributor as well. They have a ton of talent at cornerback. At safety, they are very strong and versatile. Jabril Peppers was 5th out of 95 safeties in PFF grade, being elite in coverage and against the run, and being a movable chess piece that logged 50-plus snaps on the defensive line, box, slot, and outside cornerback, then free safety as well. That's pretty ridiculous. That is versatility to the max. You don't see guys moving around quite that much at basically any position. So that is really wild to see for a safety. In New England, Peppers has become everything he was drafted in the first 4, as he had a ton of potential coming out of Michigan, and he has lived up to it, at least in New England. And their other safety, Kyle Duggar, is all right, but has the potential to be elite. Duggar ranked 68 out of 95 safeties according to PFF, which was in large part due to his excellent run defense performance. But 2 years ago, he was also really good in coverage as well. Like Peppers, Duggar logged 50-plus snaps in the box at slot and wide corner and free safety too. So they have a lot of movable chess pieces, which is really nice, especially in the modern era where there's so much versatility to offenses. Where if you think about the 49ers in particular, they have McCaffrey, who can be a running back or a receiver, Debo Samuel, who can be a receiver or running back, Kittle, who's basically a tight end and wide receiver all in one. That's a lot of versatility to match up with, and the Patriots are equipped to deal with it. So if they're equipped to deal with the best team, arguably, in the NFL, they have a really good shot against anyone else. Regarding their defensive back depth, Sean Wade is a solid fourth corner, being 74 out of 127 in PFF grade, but that's about it. They don't really have too much else. D-line, as far as that's concerned, the Patriots are pretty good if they can remain healthy. Josh Uche finished 58th out of 122 in edge pressures, which was a bit of a disappointing year for him despite almost entirely being just a third down rusher. The year prior, he was 16 out of 129, so he's shown that he can be a really good pass rusher. He really struggles against the run, as evident by him only being a third down rusher mainly. But if you're going to be good at one or the other, it's preferable to be a great pass rusher, which he has the potential to be. In 2022, when Matthew Judon last played the full year, he ranked 8 out of 129 for edge pressures while also being a solid run defender. So they have a nice edge duo when they're clicking. Judon is obviously the star of the show, but Uche can be just as good, if not better, if he can just really key in on being a pass rusher and be at his best form in that regard. Christian Barmore is an absolute stud in the interior, as he was 14th out of 142 in defensive interior pressures. He's solid against the run, too, so there's no deficiencies in his game. He is an awesome player. Armon Watts is also solid, being 77 out of 142 for defensive interior pressures, while missing 2 games, only being a rotational rusher and being the 10th ranked run defender to boot. So he's a pretty good player. He is definitely not a household name, but he's a solid contributor. As for their depth on the defensive line, Dietrich Rise was 59th in pressures and offers good versatility as an interior and edge rusher. Anthony Jennings was the 5th ranked edge run defender in the league. Keon White is a good edge setter too. And then for a true interior player, Daniel Ukele was, I'm sorry, I'm butchering that, was 50th out of 141 in pressures last year when he actually played. So he's a solid pass rusher also. So there's a lot to like for the Patriots defense, and we aren't even at their arguably best position yet. Linebacking wise, the linebacker core for New England is elite. Jelani Tavai ranked 4th out of 82 linebackers in PFF grade, being 8th in coverage and 7th in run defense. So that is elite stuff. He is one of the best linebackers in football, even if he doesn't get talked about in that regard oftentimes. And Jawan Bentley was 44th out of 82 linebackers in PFF grade, basically being a worse version of Tavai with rankings of 49th in run defense and 48th in coverage. Being a balanced player is, again, really nice to have, because if you can't cover at linebacker, you're just going to be targeted all day. And that's not really the case for the Patriots. They have guys that can cover, and they're not going to be weaknesses in the run game either. They have pretty big bodies for the modern standard of linebacker now, with guys getting smaller and faster. So they can thump in the run game just fine. The depth at linebacker for the Pats is excellent too. with Sion Takitaki being their third linebacker. Takitaki ranked 32nd overall and was a stud in coverage, ranking 22nd there and 47th in run defense. So they have a ton of talent at linebacker, and they're deep. They're really well set there. Their entire defense, honestly, is pretty good. And I don't think that's all because of Belichick. I think that's a sign that they have some real talent there also. In all, the Patriots are a bit all over the place. Their supporting cast for Brissett in May leaves a lot to be desired, as their offensive line can run block well, but struggles pretty mightily in pass protection. Moreover, their weapons are teetering on not being good enough to really evaluate the quarterback position, as they have two wide receiver number twos and a solid tight end as their main guy. It might make sense to take their time in starting May then, especially until his fundamentals are a little bit cleaner. But their defense is ready to go right now, or at least it was under Belichick, with a strong secondary and linebacker core mixed with a passable defensive line. There's really a lot to like for their defense. It's just going to be a question of if their offense is good enough to really survive, which I'm a little bit pessimistic of. But again, I like what their defense is constituted of.